What is up, everybody? New setup. Today we're going to talk about the new Peter McKinnon Nomatic bag. Mainly the setup of it, like what can you fit in the different spots? How much stuff can you fit? And what are some of the issues that I was having trying to fit everything? I'll go over all of that in the video, starting with the large cube, then the two small cubes, and then the backpack itself with a few tips to make things fit better. And to make it so you don't have to spend so much money. Spoiler alert, you can use the dividers that come in these for the internal of the bag, so you don't have to purchase the dividers for the bag. We'll get into that though, so let's just get into the video. All right, if you're new to this channel, we talk about photo, video, travel, and tech. With a heavy emphasis on the video and the travel coming up very soon, so stay tuned. But we're just gonna get right into the video, and we're gonna start with this large cube. This goes straight into the backpack as like a little modular system. Now, one of the coolest things about this new backpack system is that it's modular. You have these little small cubes, you have a cube, you don't even need to use the cubes. But there's an issue, starting with the quality of these cubes themselves. As you can see from the video, they aren't like they were in the Kickstarter video and photos. They're very wonky. Even if you take out all the padded dividers, it still doesn't keep shape very well. And the quality of the actual cube itself does not fit what we saw in the Kickstarter campaign, which is a little disappointing, and that's a very common thing I've seen people say about this. Now, if you can get past this, it's a pretty cool system, but there's some issues. Starting with obviously the fact that it's not a very nice square cube. So if you set this up not in the backpack, it might not like fit super well in the backpack. You might have to kind of like shove around in there. But you can realistically use the padded dividers for anywhere, even inside the backpack. So let's start with what fits in the bag and what some issues I ran into. One of the issues I ran into is it's either too thick, tall, whatever you want to call it, or not tall enough or thick enough. So for example, here's an 85mm RF lens. I would say it's not that long of a lens. This is a pretty averagely small lens. I would think even Sony has some lenses that are, you know, this or longer. And if we put it in the bag, wherever, it has a filter on it, but you'll see, even if I take the filter off, it doesn't quite fit in the bag. I'll hold it up like this. You can kind of see that it sticks up just a little bit. It might be harder to see on camera, but it definitely sticks up by a few millimeters, even if you don't have a lens cap on it. And that's gonna be an issue because if you put a camera in the backpack, which makes the back part of it thicker, and try to shut it, that's gonna be a lot of pressure on the top of this lens. So the only way to fit this lens in there is on its side. And then as you notice in the bag, there's a solid, we'll call it half my finger or an inch of additional space you lose up and down to fit more stuff. So you kind of lose a little bit of real estate because it's not tall enough to put something else on top, but it's also not shallow enough to fit the lens nicely. The only thing you don't lose real estate with are tall lenses like my 7200. If they would have made this backpack literally like a fourth of an inch or even a half of an inch thicker, you could have fit so much more stuff in here. I can't even fit my Canon RP on its side. It's just a little bit too tall. So those are the downsides to the large cube. Now let's talk about what can actually fit in here. This is the configuration you get when you first get the bag, and I took it out and put it back in, so it might not look perfect, but it's kind of set up to be able to fit your camera with a lens on the inside. Now I only have one camera right now because the other two are being used for this video, but it's meant to kind of put your camera in like this, and then you can put things on the sides or anything as you please, you know, stuff like that. So what I did is I took all the dividers out so I could kind of show you what could really fit in this cube. Now, I'm going to be putting things in here without dividers because it would take years for me to make a video with every configuration with the dividers of things you could fit in this bag. And I only have one camera body that I can use because the other two are being used for this video. But for example, you could fit a camera with a lens, put a divider around that, maybe your drone on its side with its controller, whether it's the small or the big. And then you have like a really awkward type of space left over just because of the size. I mean, there's different configurations you could try. The way I have it here, you might be able to fit another lens. I don't have another lens, but you could definitely fit a lens here and maybe a body. But I don't know if you'd have room for your controller. There's a lot of different configurations I've tried, but if I had to say, with the large cube, you could fit one camera body, one lens, one drone, and maybe a small other secondary body or a small secondary lens. And that's entirely up to you what you think you could fit, what kind of size lenses you have. You definitely can't fit the large 7200, but if you have an RF 7200, that would probably fit in here. But they don't give you very nicely looking layouts because you have to put everything sideways. You can't fit anything on its side. You kind of have to put everything sideways. So if I put my camera like this instead of the way I just had it, it sticks up too high. So I'm forced to put it down and take up this extra space here, which is, you know, taking up an obnoxious amount of space. But I mean, that's the large cube. If this gives you a little bit of a reference as to what can fit in this cube, that might be beneficial for you. You're better off just fitting minimal things in here for everyday type stuff. If you're vlogging, I would say one camera, one lens, a drone, and a mic. I think that would be the perfect setup for this bag. All right, next let's talk about the small cube. I have two of them. They're exactly the same. They do have different size dividers in them, which is kind of nice. They could come in handy for other uses if you were to just use the dividers in the backpack. But they fit a lot less than the large cube. I would say the small cubes are not very useful. And again, that is due to the fact that you can't fit your camera sideways because it sticks up ever so slightly. And that would hit against this, which is where your laptop goes. And that would just that's so much pressure to put on your laptop. So, and this is a Canon RP, not even a bigger camera. They make, my R and R5 are bigger than this, so it definitely wouldn't fit. And again, the lens is also too long to fit upright in the bag. So you're forced to put things long ways, or just not at all. You could fit this camera sideways, which is nice. So you don't have to put it an awkward way in the bag. You can fit it, you know, perfectly in there, depending on the size and length of your camera. But I would say the small cube could really fit one lens, one body, or one drone with the controller, maybe, depending on what drone you have. And that's really about it. On paper, everything looks like it would be perfect, but this bag is a lot less than I was really anticipating, especially after waiting a year to get it. It looks like in the marketing material for this bag, they picked the most perfect lenses, cameras, drones, etc. They even showed a Mavic Mini fitting upright in this compartment, or the large one, as well as a lens. It was a Canon L series too. I don't know what lens they used, but even my Canon R sits above the top of this lip. So I don't know how they managed to fit everything perfectly in there, but in the marketing materials, you can definitely fit more than it looks. I can confidently say I have no idea what you would put in these small cubes that would fit nicely. If you don't bring your laptop, you could definitely fit things upright, because then you wouldn't have to worry about the compression of the back of your laptop on the top of your lens or camera. But if you are carrying a laptop, you don't have that option unless you like having broken screens or a bent laptop, because that is definitely possible to make happen. All right, so let's talk about the bag. So in the bag, but again, this is just slightly taller than the bag. So when you put the top over, there's a lot of pressure on that one spot. So if you have your laptop in, it's gonna push on your laptop because this is where your laptop sits. But on the other hand, the camera barely fits on its side. So you may be able to fit your camera on its side. Also, on a side note, this whole piece comes out, which gives you access to the entire bag. This kind of looks like a mini low pro 450, which is kind of cool. So you can kind of utilize the entire space, or you can use this top piece like this, or you can even put it out nice and big to have a huge area. But if you do put it down like this, then you have access to a little spot up here where you could put little stuff like your laptop charger and other accessories, filters and stuff like that are easily accessible, like your hard drive for running on the plane. So you can open it from the top here, and you don't have to open the entire back of the bag when you're on a plane. So this is a super nice thing because you can take it out and put it back in to utilize extra space on trips that you may need it for. So I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna show you what kind of things can fit in this bag. And I'm gonna be very generous and put things upright. I'm just gonna kind of throw them in there and pretend like there's dividers. And this is utilizing the entire bag space. Now I could probably fit one more camera, maybe one more lens, maybe my mic, and that's about it. I wouldn't really have any extra room for my filters. I'd put my batteries up in the top section here along with other accessories, but I wouldn't really have room for my laptop charger either, and little things like that because my entire space is taken up by this stuff. This should hopefully give you some sort of reference as to how big this bag is and how much stuff can fit in this bag. I know this isn't the prettiest organization. I just threw things in here for reference to show you what kind of things fit in this bag. Let me show you what it looks like on the inside when we have this installed. So then we might have room for some stuff like this, smart controller, and then maybe another lens right there. And then lastly, these dividers that come in the large and the small cubes, if you bought those, you can use these in the bag itself. They do mostly fit the length of the inside of the bag because of how thin the dividers are, or the cubes. So you get two big ones, and then the rest of them are pretty small. And then the small cubes also have a little bit bigger dividers. So you could utilize the bag without using the cubes, which I thought the cubes are really cool and modular and versatile, but I think just using the padded dividers in the bag is going to be your absolute best bet to optimize the amount of space because the bag is so small. It looks bigger than it is, and the way they optimize it in the pictures is quite clever. So hopefully all my references and explanations helped you with your bag itself, or if you're considering buying it. It is a very nice quality bag. The quality could have been better compared to what they showed in the Kickstarter, but overall, like little things like the zipper holders, the magnets and stuff like that is super nice, and I do appreciate a nice, quality bag. The outside is also very nice, so it is a nice bag. I just feel like the design was just a little bit off, considering they could have made this literally a 1/4 of an inch taller and it probably would have fit a lot more stuff. If you have any questions about the bag itself, let me know and I can answer them as best as possible. But that's really it for today, guys. I hope this video helps you, and I'll see you on the next one.